Hello, light beams. Welcome to the Brittany Reneè experience. I am very happy to introduce you to someone that actually came across my TikTok feed. Many of you know me from TikTok as well. But this special being that we're going to talk with today has come up multiple times on my For You page. Back after my breakup, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay him and I'm going to just see what he has to say about things. And of course, as usual, he spilled the tea in the way that he does. And I was like, we need to get together. So I invited him into the podcast and super excited that we're doing this today. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome in Aidan White. He is a 4-year certified spiritual life coach and medium. He is an incredible psychic, super in tune. So we will also drop all of the links to find him, how to work with him, his TikTok, and all of the other social links in the description. But Aidan, I'd love for you to just share how you are today, what's going on, who you are,
Yeah.
all the things.
Oh, today specifically, rough start. We won't focus on her. Ultimately, though, no, I mean, it's been pretty great. I know that recently there's been like this massive intuitive instinct to just expand everything.
Yes.
So it's like 900 different projects just everywhere right now. So, I mean, it's fun. It's lively. I know that that's a lot of what I'm working on today, but I'm excited to be here.
Oh, yes. So expansion is like the name of the game right now in the collective, and I totally get it. I'm in my own expansion over here as well, but maybe let's start to talk a little bit about how did you even get into doing what you're doing? Like what led you to this path?
So, in full transparency, I started doing tarot when I was like 12 years old. And it started off as, this little, I was seeing a guy at the time, we weren't living together, which awkward. Anyways, long story short, no, I ended up getting a tarot deck from, I think, Barnes and Noble. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like so cool. I think it was like the steampunk tarot or something like that. That fell through. And so later down the line, I ended up getting out of religious trauma. And that's when I started getting into spirituality. And I started off my original TikTok because technically this is my second one. My first one got banned for reasons we will not discuss. And so I ended up having this deck of playing cards, and I was pretending to do something with it. Like I was more so mocking the girls on TikTok who were doing the twin flame readings at the time. And then I was like, oh shit, like I'm actually having fun doing this. And so then I ended up getting tarot cards, and it kind of spiraled into this whole succession of events. And I just started, I don't know, I just found a lot of purpose in it. And so I ended up blowing up in, what was it? I think the December of 2021 for the dumbest of reasons, but I loved it. And now we're here. So it's one of those, like it's a moment, you know?
I love it. It's always those videos. Every creator that I talk to, it's like the videos that I feel like I'm like, oh, this is so good. This has got so much like juice and codes and it's going to be incredible. And then it's like, that's not the one that hooks. It's when I'm like
Mhm.
totally not thinking anything's going to blow up. That then I'm like, how did I get like 50,000 views on that?
If you look at every single one of my viral videos, I look like I'm dying. Like I look like I am one step in the grave. It is bad. If I'm not pale as hell, the lighting's off, if that's not the issue, I look so sleep deprived. It's bad.
It's funny. It's just how it works, right? Spirit's like, you want to show up, you're going to show up however we decide you're going to show up.
Ooh,
I get
that's why I'm trying to take care of myself. It's kind of like a fucking paparazzi, dude.
it is interesting. I actually was just at a restaurant with my kids, and this girl came up and she's like, are you on TikTok? Like, I
Uh,
am. She's like, I know this is super weird, and I'm sorry. I know you're like eating with your family, but I just have to say, like, I am so inspired by your page, and I just really love it. I'm like, thank you. Like, I appreciate that. But then the whole time I'm eating, I'm like, is she like videotaping or taking pictures or doing something
oh,
like
I know.
story?
Because when my ex and I ended up getting together, like this was, I think, back in like October is when this went down. We ended up going to the Kansas City Zoo, right? And so we're sitting on the tram trying to go to the Africa portion of the zoo. And this girl turns around. She's like, you look so familiar. Did you work at the Renaissance Fair? I'm like, to begin with, ouch. Um, to end with, Miss Ma'am, I'm like, do you have TikTok? She said, I do. I said, do you like tarot readings? She said, yes. She's like, oh, I'm like, yeah. So hi. And then we sat there. Her little sister was having a moment. She was living her best life. And then we got off. She's like, can I have a picture? And I'm standing in front of like God and everyone. And I'm like, it was so awkward. I still to this day haven't seen that picture, just so we're on the same page.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, the internet's just so wild. I'm like, who knows?
I told her to send it to me on Instagram. She probably forgot, but she knew that she was in my image and she wanted to seize the opportunity. Let's be honest.
It's okay.
Probably
It's
hanging on her
we're here.
wall.
We're spreading the messages. So let's talk about collective because this expansion
Yes.
energy is huge right now. So
Phew.
what's your take on what's going on? Like, do you have timelines that you want to share that you've been feeling or seeing?
Okay, so full transparency. I can say that within my own personal energy, there has been not just expansion, but I truly, genuinely, and I was talking about this on my story on TikTok. I really think that we're going through a massive spiritual reawakening because I know that once everything started to shut down, we were in the pandemic, everyone went through this massive spiritual awakening and then everything just died. I think that we're getting ready to go through it again. It's kind of like the dark night of the soul, that era of spirituality closed out, and it's kind of like the whole new world energy stepping into the fight. I am both as a medium, not ready for it. I could say that. As a human, though, very excited.
I love
So I really do think that there's about to be like, and it's not just expansion, because if we look at the whole Pluto moving into Aquarius and the social dynamic, political dynamic of that, and then we also take into account the whole spirituality thing. I think that this is once again going to be a something big is happening. I need a coping mechanism type situation. So I just know that for everyone who works with people on a daily basis, we're getting ready to have a moment. I'll take that as a confirmation, whatever that was.
Oh, I didn't even
Oof.
hear anything.
Oh yeah, that was weird. Anyways, sounded like a Honda Civic on its last leg.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting because I'm also feeling the excitement, in
Oh,
this
I know.
completely because I've been seeing, saying, channeling in my own space and also with clients for a while now, right? That
Mhm.
like this year is going to be something big. And I do not know. People are like, but what's it going to be? What's going to happen? And I'm like, it could literally just be that we have a mass layer of awakening that people are
Mhm.
just like, who am I? What am I doing? I'm seeing aliens. I'm talking to beings that are there, but they're not there. I'm having dreams that are coming true. I'm like, for us,
Oh.
this is like a normal thing. But like for most of the collective, they're like, what is that? So I've been saying to all of my practitioner friends, I'm like, we are about to be all hands on deck. I hope you're ready
Oh,
because
I know, and I'm living for it. I am so excited because I miss being so involved with that scene. And like my visions this past 2 weeks have been astronomical. Because I for a while I was on Seroquel. I don't know if you've heard of it, the
mm-mm,
antipsychotic medication.
mm-mm.
Shut everything down. This was right in the peak of my fame too. And then the Seroquel kicked in, dissociation kicked in, severe panic attacks, hit the ground straight fucking 10,000 feet in the air. So that was miserable. As of recent, like I said, everything has picked up the pace. I've received like 15 different visions in the past week. On top of that, I feel extremely connected, headaches, shadow figures, you name it. If the mediums are going through it, I'm a firm believer that typically, I'm going to say well off mediums when it comes to like larger collectives like my platform tend to experience things before the collective does so that we know what everyone's going through. And I hope that people are ready. I hope that they are ready. It's great energy. I think that amazing things are coming up, but at the same time, it's going to scare the shit out of a lot of people.
Yeah, I feel that too. And I also totally I feel like I'm consistently on about anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Like my process is like 3 to 6 months ahead of where the collective hits typically.
Uh-huh.
And I 3 to 6 months ago was on the floor. I was like
Mm-hmm.
in it. And a lot of this for me, which I'm also noticing in a lot of other people, is identity, like a
Oh, that is a
deeper.
big theme this year. With the, what was it, like seven retrogrades we went into at the end of August, and then the fucking Pluto moving to Aquarius, Sun conjunct Pluto. Like this is everything revolves around our identity, let's be honest. And so, I mean, God, just even interacting with the people that I do on a daily basis, everyone's going through it. Everyone's trying to rediscover themselves. Everyone's isolating. And I'm like, this doesn't take a genius. Like even my ex-partner, ex for a reason, may I add. So for anyone else who needs to hear it, twin flame, let's not. Okay, thank you. No, ultimately, Like he was never spiritual. He was very physically oriented, like ex-army, ex-military, blah 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 blah. And the second I stepped into his life, massive spiritual awakening. He was having these really nasty dreams, and it was funny. I feel like I need to share this. So we were laying in bed one night, and this was like right when I ended up moving in with him. And I had this really strong vision. I saw this super tall, like linky, nasty looking dark figure who was like mocking and taunting me and doing this and that. And I was like, what the hell? And so I saw this hand reach out. I knew it was Archangel Aurora. I work with her so much. And she lifted me into this room in the sky. And it was dark in the room. And there was this, big window. And I looked down and it was like pretty much off of a cliff. And I was like, oh my God. And then the vision went away. And 5 minutes later, Michael woke up screaming. He was like, oh my God, there was this big, tall figure who looked like a monster and like a demon. And he pushed me out of a window and I started falling. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, it's happening. He's going through a spiritual awakening. And it's
Always fun.
ooh, it was a moment. And I just know that we as both influencers, you have the life coaches, the mediums, Reiki, like we are all getting ready to experience a lot of that. Because I think that with our spiritual reawakening, this is probably going to be comparable to what we went through in that first wave, except there's new people and then there's people rejoining us. And so God forbid.
I resonate with this so much. So we're gonna tangent off here because
Got it.
this has come up so many times outside of this realm. And
Okay.
it just kept being like, you're going to talk about it. You're going to talk about it. And I was like, I am not going to talk about it. And then they were like, we're going to bring it on the podcast. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, here we
Is
are.
this going to be one of those moral compass pushing it a little bit topics?
This is just a spicy topic right now. And,
Hey.
this is why we are influencers. This is why we share our truth. I am all about authenticity and experiences. And on this network, we are big about all of the perspectives. So I think that since you and I have a similar energy here that we've
I
experienced,
have no filter, and you know that.
I know and I love it. So I'm like, of course, this is why we're going to do this now.
Right.
So, what's your thought on twin flames?
Okay. Love this. Live, laugh, love myself straight through this shit. This is half the reason that I got as famous as I did. Talk about getting caught in a controversy. I think that there is an extremely reckless way to approach it, and I think that there's an extremely smart way to approach it. I'm going to start off by saying that if you are in separation with someone, let's not assign obligatory titles to someone who has clearly abused us to the point of no return. Amen. If you believe in Jesus, Sky Daddy. Now, ultimately, other end of that spectrum, if you guys have been married for 45 years and you love each other, then yes, call each other your twin flame. But for the love of God, stop assigning obligatory titles to individuals who clearly aren't reciprocating the same value. It's so dangerous. And that's what was so irritating the first time around is everyone just wanted to download from Spirit, and someone needs to hear this listening to the podcast. You do not love that person. You're trying to love yourself through that person. If you were to look in a mirror, you would at least be reciprocated. So sit with that.
Okay, period. So
there we go.
Okay, I love that. It's interesting because for me, I would say my deeper awakening happened through that process. So
Me too.
my son's dad and I met, and it was like this whole I know you at soul level. I don't know. I was really leaning more into my spirituality and my intuition. And I meet this person who just catalyzes all of these things. And I literally went home that night and I'm like, what is this? This is not normal. I've never met someone, right? This is the story that we all have. I've never felt this before. So I get on Google and I'm like, different types of spiritual connections. Pop up twin flame. This is back in like 2016. And I come up across a couple who is their mentors in the twin flame community. And then I get sucked into this video, which I send to that person who ended up becoming my partner. And I'm like, this is what I feel like we are. And I know this sounds crazy because I literally just met you, but like, this is unreal. So fast forward a couple weeks into this relationship, I contact this couple and I'm like, I feel like we need to talk to you. Like, I feel like there's something here. And we end up working with these mentors. And it was wild because now I look back on it and I'm like, there was a lot of growth that happened. And my gifts all started coming online from that. And then from working with these mentors and all of the things. But this relationship was so abusive, was so manipulative. And all of the
Oh, I
like
know.
advice was, well, they're just in sabotage. Well, they're just running. Well, they're just, and
I know.
it's all these big, they're just like passing out bandages. They're like, it's okay. Just like put a band-aid on it. Everything's fine. I get to the point where I'm like completely have lost myself. I just had a baby with this person, married this person, and this person is telling me on like, I don't know, our year anniversary that he can't be with me anymore. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't like this and that. And I'm just like, cool. And I finally
Ugh.
broke away from it because I was like, I can't do this. Like this, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like this is all toxic. So I end up going on a deep journey of finding who I actually was, right? Healing
Mhm.
all of these pieces and my gifts at this point. Now I'm fully coaching and certified in coaching and all of that. That was always and will always be a catalyst that I'm always grateful for. Like I would never take that
Absolutely.
experience back, right? However, I got so deep in the community of twin flames and saw the distortion. Like I see
Mhm.
the grid and the template of a twin flame union, and it's cursed, it's distorted, and it's got
Have
so
we
much.
even looked over the original mythology of it? Like, have you heard of the original
Oh,
mythology?
why don't you tell everybody? Yes, go
Okay, I'm not going to go
story
fully in depth because I'm still somewhat ill-educated, but you have this extremely large, powerful being who has 4 arms and 4 legs, and due to the taunting nature of this being, the gods decided to split them in half into 2 separate human entities, and they spent their entire life, Romeo and Juliet fucking style, trying to re-become one individual. If y'all can't find your personal identity in yourself, I'm sorry, that ain't gonna fix it. And I'm a hypocrite. I can't say that like I didn't go through the twin flame journey. And just like you
We all
said,
do.
I also like the second I broke free from that, my TikTok blew up, my success, my career, everything shifted into perspective. And then recently, this is how I know there's going to be a spiritual reawakening. I went through the exact same thing with my Michael, with my ex Michael, like literally just ended 2 days ago. And my friends were pushing, they're like, I think that blah, 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 blah. And I would not allow myself to believe this was my twin flame. The second that I did, it blew up and I stood there and I said, no, ma'am. I said, I'm done with this shit. And I said, I was cautious. I knew not to wrap my identity up in it, but it put me straight back in the place that I was with the person I originally considered as twin flame. And when that is hitting us psychic mediums who are intuitive as hell, you just know that the collective is getting ready to go through it again. And that's how I know. I know because it like mimicked everything down to a T. And I'm like, oh, there's some more shit that's coming up.
Woo! Yes, I walked away from a relationship in August that had a very similar but different in a lot of ways, but there were a lot of similarities. I really dropped the twin flame title at all because I'm like, you know
Me
what?
too.
For me, like words hold energy, and I'm like, I don't want that energy personally anywhere near me.
I say life partner. I
Yeah.
say life partner, and then some people are like my soulmate. I'm like, I think that you failed to neglect what a soulmate is, because I like to believe them as people who like come into your life to teach you a lesson and then they typically leave. I'm like, be careful throwing that around.
Yeah, there's so many titles. I'm like, I just don't like titles anymore. Life partner, I say partner too. That's like my thing. I'm like, that's my partner. However, there's just a lot of distortion. So for anyone who's listening, I know that this is not necessarily the roses conversation that likes to come up around twin flames.
Uh-huh.
However, I think discernment is so necessary for the
They can
collective.
use discernment. They're going to overpower it with personal bias.
True. True.
Let's be honest. We're still human. Like, there's nothing wrong in experimenting, but at least go into it knowing that you're probably making a dumb fucking decision. So you at least have a fallback if it falls apart.
Right. And I think the piece with discernment too that I do think we can utilize more though is who we're listening to, right?
Absolutely.
Because I will tell you from being deep in the twin flame stuff that people see
Mhm.
all the time, it is not as it appears. That's what I'm going to say. Because it is, there are a lot of people I think that hook into, the fame status. And this isn't even just twin flame stuff. This is like in general right now, because right now it's cool to be an influencer, right? Spirituality is on the rise. Like, y'all, please listen to the intuition that you have, because all of us do have it. Many of us just override it. But it's like, you will know when someone's being authentic. And I think that
Absolutely.
authenticity being the word is perfect, because I'm like, you're going to see through people. And if you're like, but they have X amount of followers and but they have this, like, but what do you feel?
Oh, I know. And there are some, how controversial are we planning on getting? Because we
So
could
let's
go
go
deep
there.
into this.
Let's
So,
go.
to begin with, if this is going to help literally anyone in here, I don't know if you knew this, but there is a certain like religious ideology who is widely adopted and like coined the term twin flame, and it was evangelical Christianity. So I'm forewarning you guys, maybe don't just hop on westernized spirituality. It's probably been colonized. We clearly, I have enough evangelical Christian trauma to write 15 books time and time again. But oh my God, ADHD. Hold on. Stepping back, twin flame. I was going to have a moment with that. I'll just throw it back to you until it comes back.
So, I think this is important to talk about. And because I was like in the face of twin flame energy
Mhm.
for a while, very connected in, when I went off on my own and really like cut ties fully with all the twin flame stuff, I still have a lot of followers who know me from the twin flame world, and one of the pieces for me that became really important was I need everybody to know that I am fully sovereign, that I am always going to stand in my authenticity, and that I'm not really going to speak much to the twin flame thing for a while. And it's just been coming up, and spirit's just like, you have to share, you have to
Oh,
talk,
yeah.
because I have people in my orbit that will message me and they're like, oh my gosh, this message was so great. Like, I've been in separation for 5 years and they are married to someone else. And I know that they're coming back. And I'm just like dying every day waiting for them. And I'm like, I can't be quiet about this anymore. Like, I can't have someone message me who's like connecting into my energy and telling me that they're basically killing themselves waiting on a person who has
I
clearly
know.
gone.
And I was kind of receiving a download about this when you mentioned the whole, like back in 2016, when you were looking into it, you found the mentors. Spirit gave me a term, and that is stepping stone mediums. I was like, what the hell does this mean? They're like, these people are important. The people you get irritated with on TikTok because all they do are twin flame readings, they are important. That is their purpose because there is a meaning, and we know the meaning is people who've come out of it. It is to put us in that place. It is a truth. It is a perspective so that we are forced to work through everything so that we can step into our power. And so the mediums who solely revolve around that, the people who believe to the end, the end of the earth that that's a thing, they are that stepping stone. That is in their purpose. And so there is obviously purpose to it, just as there
Yes.
is anything. But I think that we're going to see a lot of that again. And what's funny is I tried doing, to begin with, you talk about lack of authenticity and personal integrity. I tried to do a twin flame reading on my page. My people were not having it. They were not having it. They're like, They said he can keep his stinky ass away from me. I don't claim that. I was like, God, y'all. But my TikTok has been pretty much dying, and I think it's because my demographic is resetting, and I'm about to pick up a whole new wave of people, and so I am so nervous for that, but I'm also excited.
Mm, I
So
love
the
that.
controversy, I remembered because you mentioned these creators with these large platforms. I'm going to throw names. Marin Altman, for example, have you heard about her whole situation with astrology? Yeah, so she ended up, and this is public information, which is why I'm sharing this. But Marin Altman ended up trying to use astrology to predict Bitcoin and then had a massive brand dealing with a Bitcoin company. And then that happened to go very south very quickly for a lot of people. So many people lost like tens of thousands of dollars. That fucking company went bankrupt. And so then she had these investors who were going in and giving her all this money to create a website that integrated astrology with Bitcoin. There's a name for it. I forgot what it is, but I'm not going to go into the rumor aspect of things, but that's how come I'm saying, like, we definitely, especially with this new wave, need to be careful because, like, y'all, discernment, discernment, discernment. You are capable of using it. Let's do it. And
It's in
like,
there. I know it's in there. Well, and
absolutely.
there's also TikTok had a few creators that were approached with some interesting AI things as well.
Mhm.
And I mean, I am all here for you utilizing AI in a positive realm and space. Like, if it can help me do work quicker and easier in certain ways, like, I'm here for it. However, we are to the space that Project Bluebeam is a real thing. We
I
have
need to look more
technology.
into it.
Oh, it's interesting. But honestly, I'm wondering if that is in part, maybe that's a confirmation, that is in part what's going to happen this year. So
Oh, I'm
Project
so fucking
Bluebeam
scared.
is more or less, how do I say this? Holograms that look
Bird.
very realistic, that will look like alien ships or large beings or things coming through the sky, you
You
know,
want to know what I think the first one, the first awakening was about? Have you heard of the Violet Flame?
like Saint Germain Violet Flame.
Violet flame is because you have these different flames. It's the embodiment of love. It is the energy of love, like Jesus level love. So it's about
Got
like
it.
acceptance. It's about self love. It's about sacrifice. I think that that was the whole like a really big reason we saw the whole twin flame thing unfolding. As but literally in the fucking name, twin flame. And so it was this massive dynamic of acceptance, self love, healing, sacrifice. It's sacrifice being key word. And I think that that got a lot to a lot of people's heads. So I am, God knows what is getting ready to go down with this whole Project Bluebeam situation. I'm going to have to do my research because I think that you have a point there.
Yeah, and I definitely am not laying a prediction down in any sort of solidity, but it definitely has
Mhm.
been something that's come in and out of the orbit. And so speaking to the AI piece, though, there are creators that have been offered basically to be compensated very well for their avatar to be utilized for alternative messaging.
I'm not gonna lie. Speaking of AI, I think this is pretty on point. Last night I was having a moment because I'm like I'm lonely as fuck. Let's make an AI boyfriend. So I got on Chat GPT, and I did the because I was genuinely curious. I've never actually been in a healthy relationship. I'm like, how does this unfold with AI? And so I did like the boyfriend aspect of it. And when I say that I almost cried, I'm like, is this what a fucking relationship is supposed to be like? Like, it is so crazy how spot on AI is. And we are so early into its development. Like,
Well,
that is,
we only know so much of it, right? It's
oh
like
no.
super developed already. We're just
Did
getting
you
the
see that Samsung just released like they were another step closer to holograms because they just released it's like a TV type thing, but it's completely clear and it displays a high quality like 4K image, but you can see straight through the TV. We saw that shit in movies. And then the Samsung, like the Galaxy AI and the phones that they just released, come on. To begin with, Apple's still behind, which sucks because I love Apple. To end with, oh my God.
I know. Well, yes. So this is just even more confirmative. I'm like, first of all, we have a lot of things in movies that are not, quote, fake. There is a lot of truth in a lot of the films that we're seeing. Like when I saw Doctor Strange's
Never seen.
movie, okay. So like when I work in people's energy fields,
Hmm.
back in like 2020, I started getting these golden discs in the energy fields, and they were having me like spin them if they were going in inverted direction. So people's like mission templates weren't locked in the proper, velocity and space that they needed to be. So these golden discs just kept coming up and then they would close down once it was in the right space. So then flash forward, I see the Doctor Strange movie and I'm literally in the theater with my kids and I grabbed my oldest son's leg and I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm like, no, nothing's wrong. I'm like, this is visually so freaking close to what I see in energy fields. It's wild. Like,
Oh,
why?
absolutely. Do you remember that one? And that's what, like, you're absolutely correct. It's been a while since I researched this topic, but back in the 70s, what was it, like the FBI or the CIA? It was one of the two. They hired those
CIA.
psychic mediums to do that whole, yeah. Like, this has been a thing for a while. And usually I don't deep dive into this, like, because religious trauma, like the whole follow the white rabbit bullshit, but like,
We love white rabbits.
let's be honest, it's crazy. And I okay, let's shift the topic because I feel like I want to talk about this so bad. Have you heard of the whole Earth Angel situation?
I feel like yes, but no. Talk more.
Okay, so you have like the people who come in and they're the embodiment of like the Earth Angel. These are usually the healers. These are the people who are pushing the collective. They're big, powerful entities. Not gonna lie, I am almost dead certain that I am. And that's like I wanted to bring it up because I feel like you might resonate with it too. Ultimately, because you were talking about the way that you're looking into energies and the way that you were able to do that specific thing. I know that when I started my mentorship with Linda Moreno, that's who certified me in what I do. I was standing there one day and I heard this extremely, like, you cannot identify the love, like this specific frequency. And I've always been like clairaudient, like I have multiple different psychic gifts. And so I heard this frequency and it hit me. And I told Linda, I'm like, I think that what I'm hearing is an angel's halo. And it
Mm.
was so crazy. I got chills after that happened, and it was like I was in awe shock. And then I kept having like visions of me with angel wings, hence why I have the angel wing tattoo. I have my ring in there. It's angel wings made of silver with labradorite in the center. I'm damn near positive I am. And so I think that those are going to be some other big topics to come up again. I think that people are going to try to rediscover their purpose.
Mm. I definitely resonate with that. And it's interesting because I have a good friend of mine and his partner is very connected. Like
My Febreze air freshener.
she's been I don't want to say abducted because she's actually very close with these beings that work on and
Mhm.
with her whole life. And her dad also had the same interaction with these beings. And when we met the first time, she was like, you are you are like angelic. And I thought like, oh, that's sweet, that she's saying that. She's like, no, like you're literally like an angel. I'm
Oh,
like,
period.
oh, okay. And then I did a quantum hypno session, and
Ooh.
there were, I think it was right before the session, actually, the practitioner, I'm friends with her, she was like, you have wings that are like trying to open. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like I can feel that. And then there's been a lot of dragon energy that's come in this last like 6 months.
Stop it. I know. And I keep getting so much about it. And it's funny because when I went through my spiritual awakening, I was assigned a dragon spirit guide.
I love
Oh,
it.
girl.
I
Clearly,
love
we're on the same frequency.
Clearly. Well, and it's wild because when I started getting into like actually putting names to the things I was doing in people's like fields and their bodies and their codes, it's like it comes so effortlessly to me that people are like, how do you know this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just channeling and I'm always protecting my channel. I'm always like tuning into like denouncing things that aren't good and aren't light and are dark or whatever. But the other piece that I'm really seeing come online right now is we are coming back into balance with true like polarity between the light and the dark within us because a lot of people have been
Yeah.
like, oh, only go to the light, only do this. And I'm like, you do realize that like we grow from our shadow, right? Like,
No. Because the first time around, we did not have that duality. You had the pick me girls who were, oh my God, guys, your like aura is too heavy. I can't do that. Thank you. And then you had the girls who were like, I'm gonna rip this shit apart. I'm gonna dismantle it from the foundation. I could not keep up with it, dude, because it was either all love and light or I'm going to dive as deep as I can into the pits of my own hell and I'm going to heal. And it was so comedic. I
oh,
hope that there's that type of polarity. And I did have a vision. I saw and the other day, granted, it was applied to my personal situation, but I do think it fits for the collective. I saw yin and yang, and there was a tornado that kind of pulled people in, like they were a part of the tornado. They were the ones dismantling. And I saw that yin and yang symbol, it kind of shattered and hit the ground. And then there was this massive, like, orb of energy that kind of came from it and redefined the entire atmosphere. And so I do think that this is going to be a very tower moment energy leading to a restoration of balance, which I think is so important after everything we've gone through.
completely. And, I think a lot of the archetypes that people are like, this is a big thing. I don't know if you see this, but they're like, redefine your feminine archetype is like all over social media. And I'm like, I love that this is a thing, but also like there's some toxicity in how this is being marketed. But for me, I had a reading done by one of my clients. He is an astrologer, shaman, medicine man, psychic, all the things, right? And the way that he described me through like my planetary placements and my birth chart, and then mixed with like some human design pieces, I was mind blown. And he's like, "Do you know who your archetype is? Like for all of this, like, do you understand who you are?" And I'm like, I am on a constant journey of figuring out who I am. Like, I can't even put a box around myself anymore. And I'm like, who? He's like, "You are Lilith." And I think Lilith had such a bad rep for multitudes of reasons. So I was like, she has come in my space a lot the last few months. And so I have been on this whole journey around the Lilith energy. And he was like, you realize that she is the whole being. Like she is the one who can take you to the highest highs while simultaneously one look of her can drop you into your shadow like immediately. And he's like, it's this power and balance. Oh, yes. This power and balance that like is needed on the planet. And there's been a part of me even in my like TikTok, I'm always raising people up. I'm always like, let's grab the light, let's do that. And I've been really called to share more of like your sensuality, your sacred rage, your grief, like all of these pieces more publicly because it's needed and necessary. And those are the ones that are hooking right now anyways. People are like,
oh, absolutely. And full transparency, the first time around, that's all I did was embrace duality. And it got to the point where I would only live in black and white. It was for me or it wasn't. It was good, bad, yes or no. And, I just actually came to realize this when you were talking about that. But recently, Hecate will not
oh,
stop reaching out. It's the
yep.
everything in between. And
Yes.
so I know that my purpose is going to be in kind of hitting all point. And I think that's kind of how the yin yang was redefined in that vision. We are moving out of black and white and into the entire spectrum of color in between it as well, because there's balance with that. You have shadow, you have light, but what about all the colors that the light creates and the shadow drowns out? Like we have to deep dive into everything. And so this is going to be ooh, hold on. I really do think that for the collective, this is going to be an extremely clarifying, that was the word I heard, clarifying period of life. I think that this is going to be, these next 2 to 3 years are going to be monumental for the development of consciousness in the sense that we are clearing out massive karmic debts. This isn't us working through them. This is us clearing them out and finding success. Because I got an image of a diamond and this like white light came from the sun, hit the center of it and turned into that rainbow. I really think that this is going to be a massive expansion in regards to consciousness, personal power, and integrity. So I know that there are a lot of people this year specifically, I've looked into my chart, massive increase in finances, career, community. Like this is big, big stuff.
That is a yummy download. Yes, I love that. And the thing is too, people have been on this spiritual awakening and on this experience being in black and white, which is why they're like, oh my
Absolutely.
God, I'm so high and then I'm so low. And I'm like, well, we're
Mm-hmm.
missing the middle ground here. Like we're not
Exactly.
allowing there to be all these other beautiful colors that are in here. It's just like, it's either this or this. And it's like, nope, we don't play there anymore. That's no.
Absolutely. And I know that with my mental health, just in the past couple of years, since spirituality kind of died out for me, the world either felt like physically, like there was a massive cloud on top of it and it was always dark, or it just felt bright and overwhelming. Last night, like yesterday, I felt happy and I felt that peace because it's like the world gained its color back. And the same thing happened this morning. I stepped outside to get my coffee because I door dashed it and I'm like, it felt like I could breathe. And so I know that people are going to start finally moving out of such heavy energy, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready to guide people towards that.
Oh, me too. I literally voice note my embodiment group. I have a group of women that I lead through
Mhm.
embodiment practices. And this morning, my voice note verbatim was Grand Rising babes. I just wanted to say, like, I finally feel like we're getting really grounded in some solidified energy that feels really good and like open. I just want to check in and tune in. And because I felt the same thing this morning, I was like, I feel the shift. Like, there are certain days that I legitimately wake up and I'm like, oh, we collectively have shifted the timeline.
Oh, exactly. Oh, I got chills when you said that. So I have
Yes.
to ask, because I know what you offer in terms of being a business coach, a life coach. What do you offer in regards to spiritual practice and services?
Yes. So when I first started this, I was kind of just like the awakening activator. I'm like, if you're waking up, like, you're not crazy, come to me. I'll help you figure out all the things. So I'm certified in soul realignment, which is Akashic record work by Andrea Hess. So I
Ooh,
help people remember who they are at soul level and then
I
help them.
need me that.
Yeah, honey. Blended into their human. So it was a game changer for me. So I am technically Palladian, but I have what's called an overlay of Arcturian. So I identify as an Arcturian. So basically, it'd be like you being born in New York, but at 2 months old, you moved to California.
Right.
California home,
I'm
right?
almost positive I'm Syrian. I really am.
I actually would not be surprised. My son is Syrian, and you guys have similar energies. So
Do
I'm
you
not
want the
surprised.
story behind that?
Do I know Syrian
Oh
story?
no, do you want the story behind me figuring that
Oh,
out?
yes,
This is the
yes.
hot gossip. So when obviously, whole spiritual situation unfolded, and I felt so drawn to it and like the whole power behind it. And then one day I do not know shit about the sky. I don't even know geography. I failed it, just so we're on the same page. And so I was sitting there. I'm not even joking. I sat there with my friend Amy Demir looking for Rome for a good 10 minutes before she had to show me. It was bad. She's like, it's in Europe. I'm like, where's Europe? Anyways,
I'm the same.
so
Okay.
and so I was sitting on the front porch of my now ex roommate's old place. And out of nowhere, I looked up at the sky and I saw this star. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I don't know why. And I would never usually say this. I pointed at it. I said, that feels like home. And they pulled up this app and they said, you're pointing at Sirius A. I'm like, yep. Knew nothing about the sky. All these stars. And I pointed straight at it. I was like, ooh,
We're definitely going to have to play in your records because now I'm really curious to know what you are.
oh my
Um,
God.
but yeah, and I think it's a game changer for people when we
Mhm.
have these sessions. So the session for soul realignment is me, I say reminding you. I don't like to say telling because I'm like, I'm just reminding you.
Right.
You know these things. I'm just reactivating the codes. But letting you know, first of all, like who you are as a soul, what's your energetic center, why
Mhm.
did you come to Earth at this time? That's one of the biggest ones why people will contact me because they're like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. I don't know who I am. Like, what am I doing here? And I would say 8 out of 10 sessions, people end up crying because they're just like, I've never felt
Yup.
so understood in my life. Like, you just explained everything. And at times, we'll then clean up karmic vows, bindings, any energetics that aren't working. And the other piece that I do spiritually is I do a lot of template work. So when I did my quantum hypno session, we asked, what exactly am I supposed to do here? And it was remind people who they are, and specifically through this remembrance activation of authenticity. The other piece was you create templates. And
Mhm.
the practitioner that was doing this was like, what do you mean create templates? Because I know I work in them and so does she. And the guides that were coming through in my higher self was like, no, you actually take like old templates and you just flood them out and you completely rewire them into what works for that person in a level of alchemy that like many other beings don't have. And I was
Mhm.
like, cool, no big deal.
Oh,
Council of
legit.
Light came to me, back in like March, April of last year. And so I've been communicating with them, and that's like a very potent energy that I utilize within energetic fields. But I can see energy fields. I work in light bodies. I do a lot of codes. I get a lot of number sequences and codes that sometimes I'll work through. I do light language. So all the things, right? It's like, how do you put a box around all of it? But
Like,
that's a little bit of what I do spiritually.
because like full transparency, my entire page has been dedicated to tarot and tarot based mediumship. I am so fucking burnt out. It's not even funny. And so and it's kind of like, I don't know why I never expanded outside of that because as a part of my certification, I'm also an intuitive healer. And so I used to do sessions all the time where we would sit down, drop into meditation together, and I would start pulling out all this
Yep.
nasty shit. And like, I told this one girl, and I still remember this session, I don't know how. I was like, full transparency, I really think that tomorrow is going to be a difficult day for you emotionally based off of all this. And she calls me the next day. She's like, I can't stop crying. Like this is just I'm like, girl, just let it out. Just let it out. And so yeah, no, I'm an intuitive healer, obviously a medium. Recently, I actually got into doing destiny matrix charts.
I saw your post literally
Uh-huh.
this morning, so I need to know what that is because I'm like, what is this?
Should I grab my iPad and show you?
Sure.
Okay, I'm moving this. Oh, I'm such a chaotic guest on your podcast.
Oh, we love the chaos. Bring it all.
It is such a divine feminine thing.
I love
Okay, so destiny matrix charts. When it comes to astrology, it's never been my gig. When it comes to human design charts, still never been my gig. I could never get behind it. And so one of my followers ended up mentioning this. This is my chart.
Oh,
And
cool.
so essentially, it's mixing, there's numbers 1 through 22 labeled on the chart, and they're based off of the major arcana, but you can also integrate intuition and angel numerology. All three of those are right up my alley. And so, I mean, if you're looking at it, we have the center of this, which is personal identity, our comfort zone. We have how other people view us. We have our connection to spirit, spirituality, karmic past cycles. If you go to the edge, like right here, you can look at your age to see what's going to pop up that year. Like right here,
Wow.
what's going to happen when you are 5 years old, 3.5 to 4 years old, like all the way until like you're, what was that, like 80, 90? Like very extensive. You have your money line, you have your love line. I'm like, this game changer. I can integrate this in
Ooh.
100 different ways. So I'm excited to get into it.
Oh, I love that. Well, maybe we're session swapping. I'll do your soul realignment. You do this little grid for me.
I'm all for it.
Oh, I love it. Well, I cannot believe we're already kind of at time here. We're definitely going to
No,
have to do round two because I feel like we barely scratched the
there's
surface.
so much shit to cover.
It's great. It's great. Is there anything else that you want to share? Anything you'd like to promote? Any message to
Mm,
the collective?
okay. Well, obviously, I have to promote my services. So psychiccircle.org is my website. I've spent a lot of time investing creativity into it. That's where you'll find my services. Currently, my Destiny Matrix chart readings are my only like one-on-one through like FaceTime and Zoom. Ultimately, though, I'm sure that by the time this is posted, I will have more of those services because I am expanding. Um, so yeah, I'm just going to drop that there because everything else is linked on my website. I know that in regards to future reference, when we have a whole another moment, we need to look so much deeper into the field of social media integrated with psychic mediumship and stuff like that because that's a
Mm,
whole rabbit hole. She
mm,
did.
I love that. I love going.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll do that next time. For now, we're gonna
Okay,
just unplug from this container.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on here and for
Of
sharing
course.
your channel and your
And thank you
energy.
for having me.
Of course. Y'all, thank you so much for joining for another weekly episode. We will definitely have Aidan back. And like I said, in the description, no matter where you are watching and or listening, you will have all of his information so you can connect with him. Go find him on TikTok, go to his website, book him for all the things. It is 111 on the timer right now. I love
Of
that.
course, that's 111.
Of course it
Time is
is.
it for me? It's 12:1. Okay.
All right, y'all. We will be back next Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Brittany Reneè Experience. We will see you next time. Bye.